I was a member of the Brady Club from the age of 15 till about 18, and I have been involved in Brady and various projects, especially about Skeet, ever since. If I can talk about Skeet, I'd just like to say that where I grew up in Stepney, there weren't very many trees, there wasn't very much grass, and so to spend a weekend at Skeet in Kent, which is the Garden of England, that was very different and was very uplifting. I remember getting on a train on a Friday evening and at Whitechapel Station, travelling down to Knockholt Station via New Cross, and then it was usually dark. I seem to remember the dark nights more than the light nights when I trudged across the fields and the footpaths towards Skeet, past the Kenton Hounds pub, and eventually reaching Skeet itself. And of course there were friends of mine from the club already there. It was a very welcoming house, and it was always a pleasure to be there. There was always on Friday night a special meal, usually chicken, sometimes fish, prepared by the housekeepers, served by the members, which I'll come on to in a moment. The housekeepers I remember then were Alf and Christine Ruddock. They were there for most of the time as housekeepers during my membership. On winter nights we would sit around the fire in the lounge, in the old armchairs, listening to stories, especially ghost stories, and expecting the ghost of Lady Cynthia, whose portrait was on the wall, to suddenly appear. These were memorable and magical times. At Skeet there was always a rota. The Brady members did everything. The adults advised and supervised as necessary, but they did not get involved, they didn't interfere. Rooms were cleaned on this rota. There were so many things to do. Rooms were needing to be cleaned. Food was prepared with the help of the housekeepers. Tables were laid. Meals were served. Toilets were cleaned. The grounds were cleared of litter. After washing up, crockery and cutlery were put away. Milk and meat cutlery were put separately. So under the overall guidance of the club leader, who was Yogi Mayer, we were taught to be independent, self-sufficient, and to help each other, so to work as a team. These were very valuable lessons that we learned, and it helped us to mature and to grow up. And our parents, I'm sure mine were anyway, I'm sure most of my club members, friends, their parents too, were amazed that when we came home we knew how to wash up and do things like that. Make beds, fantastic. At Skeet, various activities were organised, such as sports, and there were local walks to be done. There was entertainment, including concerts, which we prepared, and we performed. There were competitions, and there was group singing. I can always remember one manager, Harry Mitchell, leading us in singing The Village Pump, which was a very popular song. I think it was because of the way that Harry sang it. And there were night games. Night games were fantastic. We were split into teams and spread out in the grounds of the house. This is at night, so you can imagine a lot of youngsters in the middle of the countryside running loose in a 7-acre environment. It was so nice to do that. I mean, you couldn't do that in the centre of London. And so there would be a trophy hidden somewhere in the house, and your team had to get into the house without being seen by an opposing team, locate the trophy, and the winner would be announced with a great fanfare at the end. And there were midnight feasts. Apples and cheese, I seem to remember, was one of the feasts where we would raid the larder. We shouldn't have done that, of course, but that was all part of the fun. And we would climb up and down the ropes from the bedroom in the attic. This was ropes belonging to a fire escape. Obviously, we shouldn't have done it. We can't do things like that now or be allowed to do it, but we did. And what fun it was, and I can't ever remember there being any accident, but maybe there might have been, but I knew nothing about it. And in our rooms at night, we told jokes and we told stories, and until it was very late. Eventually we would fall asleep. I remember that by Sunday morning we were totally exhausted. Some of us, though, had a Sunday football match that we had to attend. So we managed to revive ourselves for that. And then subsequently, on Sunday, we managed to get ready to go back to the Brady Club for a Sunday evening social with music and dancing. We never seemed to be too tired for that. There are so many stories, but the one thing that sticks in my mind relates to this self-sufficiency aspect, because I can remember we'd been at Skeet I was sort of coming towards the end of my membership of the Brady clubs, so I was a bit of a senior member by then, and I can remember there was a group of young girls staying at Skeet, and we were supervising that weekend. And they didn't know anything about washing up at all. They'd come from a background where the family actually, this was obviously later years, slightly later years, had a different way of dealing with the washing up, for example. But they were told, you have to wash up. This is what you do. There's the washing up liquid, there's the sink, and you wash. I said, we've never done this before. I said, well, you're going to have to do it. And then you're going to have to make your own bed. And then you're going to have to, goodness, never been known. Anyway, subsequently, we heard one girl on the telephone to her parents. And you could almost hear the shriek at the other end of the telephone. You did what? You washed up? Never known anything in their lives that their daughter actually knew how to wash up. So these are the sort of silly things, but things that stick in your mind.